Time check is about 38 minutes past 8 o'clock in the morning. A very good morning, and thank you so much for keeping it right here at Sunrise at Sea. My name is Priva Baz, and this is the final part of our show, which is our views, where we basically talk about issues that are very pertinent to our daily lives. Yes, they affect you. Yes, they affect you, they affect me as well. So today we are going to be talking a very interesting conversation. It's a weird phenomenon. You've probably not heard of it, but maybe you've experienced it. So today we're going to be looking at emotional suppression. But today I'm joined by a beautiful lady, yes? Shivan Auma. Good morning.
Shivan Auma Tembele.
Shina Tembele.
Hi, Pri.
Welcome back from that discussion. It was a good discussion.
Absolutely.
I think I'm still hyped that we are doing well for the Ugandan film.
Yes, but I also like the fact that Mr. Musinguzi pointed out and said, but also as government, and that is something you had already said in the Twitter chat, the very first segment, that government needs to really, when it comes to subsidies, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to shooting locations, these are things government should do. So that
chime in and help, filmmakers
make
in Uganda.
Make it easier.
I totally agree because, hey, we don't want to be, suppressing our emotions. well, we need to be expressing them because, this benefits everyone involved. Yes, Ugandans and all that. So back to today's topic, Shivan, we're talking about suppressed emotions or suppressing emotions. Now, suppressed emotions are simply the emotions you choose not to acknowledge, thereby failing to act on them or expressing them. Yes. One fact you need to be aware of course, is that you cannot really suppress emotions. At the end of the day, they'll always find a way to always come out. Now, emotional suppression is something that is very deliberate. You're saying, you know what? This person has annoyed me. This person has done something very nasty to me, but I'm going to control my emotions until I need to act on them, later on. So I'll give an example. Yes, I had an interview on Wednesday. Yes, and my guest insulted me here live on air. But at that moment, I could have stooped low to his level and, have a verbal exchange. But at that moment, I knew I had to suppress my emotions because at the moment I was very angry. But what does it help if, you act a fool in the moment? So emotional suppression can be good, but can also be a bad thing. But the very first question that I want to ask you, do you think actually expressing emotions is a good thing? Let's start from there.
I'm on the fence about it. It can be both a good and a bad thing,
yes,
depending on the outcomes. Because you see, when you say it is a good thing to suppress emotions, when you finally outwardly express them, it's something that has been blown out of proportion. Like, for example, your friend has continuously does something. You keep quiet. She wears your shoes. She takes your perfume. When she's using your air freshener, she's spraying as though she's spraying hers. Like those, and those things are very annoying. Yes. And then one time, maybe one fateful day, she does the same thing again. Then you're blowing up, and she's like, "Wait, but I only took this and this from you." But remember, you've bottled up emotions over time. So it can be both a good and a bad thing. But also, how it can be a bad thing is that the person who has offended you, or the feelings that you do not want to showcase, may actually become toxic, because now you're moving around, you have swollen lips, you have a big head, you are annoyed, but the person who has offended you has no idea. He's living his best. You even go to WhatsApp status and put a status about them, but they really do not care. So I think it goes two ways. One, it puts people in their place, and you let them know that, hey, what you did was wrong, and I am calling you out for it. But also the other way is that you could give people a benefit of doubt, giving people a chance. You give them the first time, the second time, then the third time, react, call them out.
Speak up,
yes, because if not, then people are going to start walking all over us. Like you gave an example of what happened here, and I think it's very important that not all the time we showcase our emotions, because you do not want to also reach on the same level, and then you're bantering words, and then it's a misguided discussion and all these things. Yes,
I think I totally agree with you. Also, when it comes to expressing emotions, I also believe like there is a time and place of when to express emotions and maybe when to get a hold of them and say, you know what, let me wait on this, I'm going to act on it later on. Now, do I believe that it's entirely like a good thing to a bad thing to express emotions? Absolutely not. We talked about it earlier on in our Twitter jabs, and we mentioned that we need to be open to expressing how we feel. At least we're going to suffer, the mental health consequences. So for me, is it ever okay to express emotions? Absolutely, it's okay, but keep in mind there's a time and place. Like the example that I gave, there has
Yes.
to be a time and place of when you express your emotions and when you have to, suppress them. Let's talk about the causes of, suppressing emotions. Why do people actually suppress emotions? Because I know, okay, the greater thing is that we suppress these emotions because we don't want to come off as unlikable.
Yes.
Imagine, you're in a workplace like this, and your producer has, pissed you off, and the next thing you know, he has maybe said, let's say a nasty comment to you, and before you know it, you're coming off like, at a certain type of way. But so, even when you know that you cannot express your dissatisfaction or your disappointment to your producer, you know that at the end of the day, I'm going to deal with my pain, I'm going to deal with my anger. But what happens is that you take it to your friends, or you take it on to your kids or your spouse or anything like that.
Like I said, you see, the aspect of suppressing emotions is that you will not take it out on the person who has offended you there and then. You will take your anger, your nugu back home, back to someone who has no idea what's going on, so which is wrong. But you asked a question which is very important. Why do we suppress emotions? For two things. For the men, I would say the reason as to why they suppress emotions is because they do not want to be seen as a weaker sex. So first of all, society has made it seem, and thank God Maurice Mugisha pointed it out here, that men in this society, when you cry or when you show emotions of being sad or hurt, you're seen as a weakling. You're not seen as a man. When women show emotions, either they are being emotional, or as other people would put it, they are being childish, immature, or other people are actually very quick to even attack a womanhood and say that, oh, she's in her menses and that is why she's acting this way. Like, why is it not the same thing for the men? Why is it that when women express themselves, then they are being emotional, then they want to be given a special kind of treatment, then they are delicate? So I think the biggest reason as to why people suppress emotions is because they do not want to be judged or treated a certain type of way. That is something that I have noticed over time.
Well, actually, I think some people, on top of that, it's absolutely true. But I think on top of that, people actually suppress their emotions because they don't want to ruin these relationships that they have with people. Yes, I think you kind of gave like an example of, if you have a friend who's constantly using your perfume and they're spraying that,
doom.
Pests, like pesticide or something like that. You like when you keep letting it go, throwing it under the rug, of course it will make you feel some type of, or you will suppress those emotions, but for your fear of not wanting to lose out on that type of relationship. But actually, research suggests that many of the reasons as to why people suppress their emotions are entirely psychological. Yes, they are entirely psychological, and many of them can be, many of them come off as directly or indirectly when it comes to maintaining one's social image. So it goes back to not wanting to come off as unlikable, also not wanting to ruin your relationships. But it is said that negative emotions are painful to experience and acknowledge. So people suppress them as a means to escape them.
Yes, you would even term it as self-protection. You're like something has happened, but you're choosing to ignore it to protect your feelings. You have lost a loved one, you have lost your mom, you have lost your dad, God forbid, and now you don't want to accept it because you're protecting yourself. But when you finally do, it is a big hit. So yes, that is actually true. Very many times we suppress these emotions because we don't want to do a reality
deal with
check.
them.
Yes,
deal with them head on and confront them. Well, we see that people also want to appear perfect to others and to themselves. So acknowledging their mistakes and failures and the feelings associated with them can be hard. That thing, like you always want to come off like you're perfect, like you're the blueprint of how everyone should do their things or how everything is supposed to be done. So as a result, you end up suppressing your emotions because you want to come off as oh, Bambi, she's nice, she tolerates everyone, she knows how to deal with this and that, but you're killing yourself. Inwardly, you're killing yourself.
True.
Yes. But then we also see that the reason as to why people actually suppress their emotions is that many people believe expressing negative emotions makes a person appear weak and appear to lack control.
And that is what I mentioned for the opposite sex, because if a situation happened and you blew up, and for example it got out of hand and it blew up and it got physical, it would be seen as how could she, like, or how could he? Then you started, you're because for the very first time, and this is what I was mentioning in the beginning, that very many times we suppress our emotions, and then when we finally showcase them, everyone is in shock. You mean all along Priva hates disrespect? You mean all along Shivan is like this? And then you're in shock. But that also shows you that all this time, people have been walking all over you. So I think it is high time that we learn to show our emotions, to represent our emotions, but again, in a better way, and at the right time, and amongst the right people. Like, I do not expect you to overly show your emotions. For example, when you're on air, you have got to be professional at all times.
Oh, yes.
After off air, then you can settle your differences, yes? Still, regardless of our workplace, I'm just giving this as an example, regardless of the workplace that you be in, you're supposed to be professional. If it is at home, you're a mother, you're a dad, if you're at fault, are you going to come out from your high horse and show your feelings or not? This is also something that I think is very common in adults. People who are parents rarely show emotions. I do not know why. I feel like it's a sign that they want to show their children that, hey, guess what?
Who is in control?
Yes, I am in control, but also I'm here to protect you, because children feel like, okay, if mommy and daddy cried, or if I saw my dad crying, then me, what should I do? Exactly. If I saw my father crying, I'd be like, now if daddy is crying, me, what do I do? Do I run away from home?
I like the fact that you talked about the aspect of family.
Yes.
Let's talk about family. Do you think it plays a role in how people, learn to deal with their emotions later on in life? Because now imagine you grew up in a society where you're receiving comments, yes? Like, you should be grateful, that's enough for you, don't do this, don't do this. So you find yourself like you're not comfortable expressing your emotions. Do you think some people are just born like that, or even family plays a role?
Family does play a role. If you've grown up in an environment, let's give an example of phrases parents usually use to gaslight and guilt trip us. Are you aware I'm your mother? I gave birth to you.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard I worked to send you to university? Yes, we appreciate that. It's beautiful, it is amazing, but you can't use that to gaslight me. So as a child, how are you going to express these emotions of being angry at your parents? If your parents are not giving you a safe space where even them, they cannot express their emotions, they have lost a job, they have lost their loved ones, and the next day they're acting all, very strong, and nothing seems to have moved them. That alone already is a toxic behavior. So as a child, I'm going to do exactly what my father did. If my father never came home and cried, or if my father never came home and said, guys, you know what, things are tough, then I won't be that kind of child who will also express my emotions, because the home that I've grown in did not subscribe.
They tell you to get over it.
Emotions.
They tell you to be positive.
Exactly.
So you just grew up as that kind of person. I understand, the family dynamic, how it plays into people suppressing their emotions later on in future, but like I said, let's start being open-minded. Yes, let's be a little bit more open-minded and understand that some of these issues, we have to tackle them right from the grassroots, so that even later on in life, people don't suffer as a result of emotional suppression. Let's talk about the consequences of suppressing your emotions.
The first one will be is that you will have an ugly outburst. It's sort of, I'll give an example. Okay, I'm not advertising soda or anything, but most of these sodas that have acid, I won't mention the names, when you shake the bottles and you open them, it bursts. Now that is what emotional suppression is like. The more you bottle up anger, resentment, being hurt, you're bottling up your emotions. When they finally come out, and let's take a look at it in relationships. For example, your man or your spouse, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend is continuously either flirting, being flirtatious with other people, and it's something that you've noticed, but you've never sat down to talk about it as a couple. This one time when you get your spouse red-handed flirting with someone of the opposite sex, you blow up as though they have cheated on you. But where are you coming from? You have continuously suppressed emotions of ignored, and now all of a sudden you're blowing up, and guess what? The relationship has ended. Yet it wouldn't have ended if you had taken time off to talk about these things, or to express that, you know what? You might not be having a bad intention, but I don't like the way Jack touches you. You're my girlfriend. I don't expect him to hold you that way.
Oh,
you
yeah.
get?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, suppressing our emotions, of course, if they are not addressed, it will cause us, of course, to dump them elsewhere, innocent people, if we are not careful. But if we keep suppressing, of course, our negative emotions, we just bury them in our subconscious. Yes? Like it's just there, it's there, but you're ignoring it. But if you do not quickly get back to it and fix those emotions, then there's a problem.
Yes.
Because you realize, like the same example that I gave you after my guest after my guest was very disrespectful, it kind of wanted to, you know, go on even after the show, but at that moment I knew I had to address those emotions there and then. You understand? So you can suppress your emotions temporarily, but you must keep it in mind that you have to come back and deal with those emotions, or else you're going to, those are the consequences, the outburst and all that.
But also dealing with it also in a very mature way, because also it is one thing to be expressing your emotions and you're throwing cups, you're throwing plates, you're throwing heels and lipstick. Madam, calm down. Sit down and let's talk like normal people, because even the other person that you're expressing your emotions to may not take you serious. They will walk out of the argument. I mean, I have seen instances, and this one I think I have learned with you when it comes to issues of disrespect or raising your voice at Priva. She will either walk out of the conversation or ask you to address her, not shout at her. So you see, even the other party will be like, am I talking to a mad person? So I think even as we express our emotions, we need to be very mature about it. Talk about things. It doesn't, like mature people. Let's not behave like we are raised in a zoo or something of that sort. And that is something very but again, the reason as to why it ends up behaving like we are in a zoo is because for a long time, you have bottled up anger. Why are you moving around with a chimango when the other person is eating KFC every day?
You answer that question for us. Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to give you some of the consequences of suppressing emotions. And number one, suppressed emotions that are bottled up intensify over time and express themselves as anger or aggression outbursts. And that's what Shivan was talking about. So studies actually confirm that when you keep bottling up, your emotions, you can be an aggressive kind of person. Yes, it just happens just like that, because you've been suppressing your emotions and you find yourself, I beg your pardon, in situations where you're being referred to as the aggressor. You're aggressive, you're the aggressor, you're always in a situation. So come on, deal with your emotions head on. Then number two, we see that suppressed emotions can also leak out in the form of dreams or nightmares. So if you're trying to hide an emotion in your waking life, when you're awake and functioning normally, it may get expressed in your dreams. So if you continue to leave that emotion unexpressed, it's just that it's going to occur even in your dreams. It's going to follow you in your dreams until you actually address that issue. Then we also have the bit of, suppressing emotions. Negative emotions may lead to depression, low self-esteem, and even physical illness in extreme cases. Apparently, suppressing emotions is a risk factor in premature death.
Yes. Interestingly,
you will die young if you keep,
of course,
suppressing your emotions and not dealing with them head on. And finally, we see that research also shows that many illnesses have psychological reasons that are directly or indirectly related to stress. So suppressing emotions is an effective way to experience chronic stress, because it's mentally demanding and exhausting. So
in this aspect, sorry to cut you short, in this aspect we are talking about negative emotions. How about what if you have a crush on someone and you suppress those emotions? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It can be demanding and exhausting at the end of it all. So, but I feel like, I still feel like suppressing emotions really is one way, it's a quick way to, getting stressed out. Because have you ever been told to not think about something?
Like, why are you even telling, the mere fact that you're telling me not to think about something, my mind is already thinking about it.
Exactly, because once I said do not address, what is making you angry, or do not think about that, it's like the more I tell you not to think about it, it's like your mind is begging you, think about me, this is what I want you to think about. So as we, wrap up the show, the conversation, give us your final remarks.
My final remarks would be, one, emotional suppression is something that is real, but it can be very detrimental if not handled appropriately. They say once bitten, twice shy. One time is okay. 2 times doesn't seem like a mistake to me. It seems like intentional. Now it's time to show those emotions to that person, even if you have fallen in love. Maybe you should actually tell the other person that you're crushing on them. But also, while showcasing our emotions or telling someone that I was hurt by what you said, or I was hurt by the way you reacted, or I do not like the way you do this, we should also learn to do it in a very civil way at a particular point in time, the right time, like Priva said, at the right time, and using the right phrases, because also you don't want a conversation that would have ended easily to now get out of control, and now it's getting personal. So I think it's very important that even as we address our emotions, we address them in the right way, through the right channel, and amongst the right people. Now I feel like a teacher.
Please, I think in a very short time, I'm just going to say, please do not get used to suppressing your emotions, that you get to a point where you have the emotional numbness. Yes, like you're numb to every and any other emotion. That's a very bad thing. Yeah. So deal with your emotions when you need to deal with them, address them when you need to address them, but do it in a very tactful way. Yes, do it in a very tasteful way. Don't come and be like a vicious animal and make a fool of yourself trying to express your anger or your frustration or your disappointment. Do it tastefully so that even the other person understands what you're trying to communicate. Well, that's all we had for you this morning on our segment of our views. We continue the conversation on our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTV Uganda. My name is Priva Elibaz. Have yourselves a wonderful morning.
Well, as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and this day has been absolutely amazing. We have had interesting conversations. Uganda at the Oscars, yay! Raising our hands. Uganda at the Oscars, but also we had the discussion in regard to emotional suppression, and I'm sure you were able to pick a thing or two from what Priva and I said. But quite interestingly, also something that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show is that today is actually our president's birthday, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the only president of Uganda for now, or as per now. Please, I do not want this other. Yes, but today is his birthday and he's 78 years of age. The age might be debated, but we are just saying happy birthday to His Excellency, the President of Uganda. From Shivan, from Priva, and of course from CTV at large, we wish you a fruitful happy birthday, and may you live longer to see
another term. No.
Anyway, that winds up the conversation that we had for you this morning on our views, the Twitter jabs, and of course that closes the show. I do hope that you had an amazing time, and of course tomorrow is Friday, so see you tomorrow, same time.
Travel to Nyege carefully at the end of it all, yes, because I know all routes are leading to Itanda Falls, but please do it, like, follow the right channels, go through the right roads, protect yourself, think about yourself, don't get too lit, too high, and then forget to care about yourself and your friends. Yes, be your brother's keepers. Enjoy those enjoyments. Absolutely. I cannot add to what Priva has already said. So see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Good morning, and don't blink.